Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Hakim and today I'll be taking you guys through the VFX breakdown from a music video I shot a few weeks back. Alright, so without any further delay, let's get right in and get started. Alright, here was the final effects. As you can see, it's a pushed-in drone footage. Yeah, I added in the tiles and also the pool. So let me quickly show you the before of how it looked. Okay, so this was the before. Let me just go into my NUKE script. It's a simple script, so I'll just take you through like step by step of how everything came together in NUKE. I'm using NUKE 14 by the way. First things first, I stabilized the footage. So I basically used the planar tracker node in NUKE to track and then stabilize it. So I tracked and then I generated a corner pin stabilized node. As you can see here was the stabilized node. So if I play it back, it looks something like this. As you can see, it's stabilizing, so it's basically like taking out the camera motion from the footage. So it's just like a stabilized still image, like you are shooting with a tripod or something like that. Yeah, so it's basically pulling out the camera motion in the shot. So after which it looks something like this. Yeah, you could barely see the camera motion in it. Is stabilized. All right, so after that, the next thing I did was I went onto the internet and I got a texture node. Yeah, I got this tile texture node. It came in as it's a very smaller, relatively smaller texture. So I reformatted it to make it a square, a bit larger node, and then I transform it to match the footage. So I duplicated that into 4 tiles, and then I merge it together, and I added in a blur node and a Roto node to get rid of some of the edges there, and then I merge it onto the original footage. Yeah, so this was how it looked. Yeah, and you can see I also lowered the opacity to 0.5 in the merge node. Yeah, to give it a transparent. I don't know what it's like to be a very harsh like texture on it, just slapped on it. I reduced the opacity. It was relatively like 1, so I just brought it down to 0.5 to give it that opacity. I basically did the same thing for the next one. I duplicated the texture, did the same thing here, did the same thing. As you can see, the same thing. Transform node, blur node, and then I merged it over. So I just like repeated the actions here too. I did the same thing to get the texture flowing throughout the image. The texture is now on top of the actor. I did a very lazy Roto work here. I came in here and added a Luma key node. So if I go to the alpha, you can see how rough the Roto is. I basically like try to pull the transparency of it to get the black and white image. But as you can see, the actor wasn't completely white yet. If I merge him on top of the texture, you could see some of the textures through his jacket, and that's not good. What I also did was I came in, I added this Roto node to cover that aspect of the image, and then I use a merge node to merge those 2 layers together, so to now get a very opaque transparency. I now copied the alpha information onto the original. So like I basically copied the alpha information onto the original image. So with that I can now pre-mult. So if I now go back to your RGB node and then I pre-multed it to get a very rough Roto. The next thing I did was to add an edge blur to blur it out a bit, not to make it so fuzzy. Yeah, but at the end it worked, right? Okay, for the Roto, that was what I did for the car and the guy on top. And the next thing was bringing in the pool also. So if I come here, this was the image of the pool. So I basically reformatted it to match the comp, and then I did a very quick Roto and then pre-multed it. I transformed it to match the plate where I want it to be in frame, and then I did a very little color correction node on it I added a bit of edge blur, and then what I did was now merge it over. So yeah, I merged it over the original thing. So as you can see, that was also the Roto after I did, and I brought it back. So he was now on top of the textures. So from here, if I play, you could see the motion is not yet there. So what I'm now going to do is now going to redo the action I did from the beginning. See, from here I stabilize. So now what I now want to do is now remove the stabilization and bring back the original camera motion. I copied the corner pin node and I brought it at the end of the comp, and then I just redo it. So now the camera motion is now back. So I'm not sure how this could play. Yeah, it's a bit slow. Alright, so now the camera motion is now back. You can see everything is now moving correctly as before. And if I disable this node, you can see there is no camera motion. So the image is basically scaling up to compensate for the camera movement that we need to pull out. So it's just still. So that's why I brought back the motion. So everything is now moving accordingly. And then I brought in a crop node. So the crop node was to get rid of these edges. For context, like when you are rendering the crop node, it basically calculates like making your comp very heavy. So to get rid of that, I just brought in the crop node to crop it according to my frame, and then I write it out. That's what I did for the next shot, and the next shot, and the shot after that. So that was just like a repetition of the shots I did. So yeah, without further ado, I hope you enjoyed this video, and please, if you do, please consider subscribing and stay tuned for the next video. Thank you.